everyone. I am back with part 2 of my 3-part little mini series on my travel journal, and it is going to end up being 3 different videos because this one was getting a little bit long and I didn't want to make it too long. So I'm going to do my last page on part 3 of the video series. So that should be coming up relatively soon, probably within the next week or so of me posting this video. So what I am doing now is just taking my traveler's notebook, and I am taking some gesso that I put in this little container to travel with me, and I am putting gesso all over these pages, and I'm putting a relatively thin coat. It does look a little thick from this angle, but I probably put a little bit more on the left than the right, but either way it's just a pretty thin coat. You can still see the lines on the page once you get up close. So now I'm taking my Tim Holtz Distress Stain in Broken China, and I'm just going to try to glob out as much as I can from this bottle because I want to ultimately end up having it run down. So I'm just going to keep smashing and pushing the ink down so that it starts getting a little runny and then starts pooling and running down the page. And this is going to take me a little bit, so all I'm doing here is using kind of a brush to help it along, and then I am also just tapping it on my desk to try and get those drips to fall down. I also wanted it to look really kind of cloud-like, so I did take my brush a little bit and mush it around just to make sure that it kind of had that more of a paintbrushy, cloudy kind of appearance. So now it's all dry, and I'm going to be adding this Dilutions ink in. Is it Picket Fence? I don't think that's the right name, but it's the Dilutions white ink. It's probably one of my favorite whites that I've ever used. It's just very, very opaque, and it's more like a paint than an ink or an ink spray. So I really recommend, if you're looking for a white ink, that you use the Dilutions white ink. I've been very, very happy with it. So now the white is pretty much dried up, and I'm going to take this other Tim Holtz Distress Stain, and I was thinking about possibly opening it, but what I'm going to end up doing is putting some paper around the book, and I am going to do a border in this copper color. And I can't off the top of my head remember the name of it, but I believe I showed it a little bit earlier in the video, a little close-up of the name. But it is this really pretty copper color, and it's one of the new things I got in my stash. When I was on my little Colorado trip, we decided to take a trip to Joann, so you can't avoid it when you see it on vacation. How can you not stop at Joann? I totally have a Joann where I live, but me and my mom are like, oh, Joann, let's go. We'll leave the kid and the husband at home and we'll go to Joann's. I'm sure you guys have all done that or want to do that when you go on vacation. But anyway, back to the layout. So that is all drying up right now. And while that's drying, I'm just going to work on some of my clustering. So I'm taking this little photo of me and my daughter on horseback. This is the first time my daughter was ever able to ride a horse. So she was super, super duper excited. And the view behind us was amazing. Oh my gosh, you can totally see the mountains, and I believe that's the Continental Divide that you can see there in that picture, and oh, it was breathtaking. If I wasn't so nervous about my daughter falling off the horse because we were going up a pretty steep mountain, I would have enjoyed the ride a little bit more, but oh my gosh, it was just absolutely gorgeous, and I would totally do it again, and my daughter had a great time. So it was a great experience. I'm glad I decided to sign us up for that little adventure. So this is a picture of my daughter on up the road. There's a road in Rocky Mountain National Forest that goes really, really high up where it's snowy, and I think on this layout I'm showing the snow picture. So it's a really, really snowy area, but it's these crazy winding roads. It's a complete white knuckle drive. I'm glad I drove, but I also did miss quite a bit because I was a bit nervous about driving, so I was keeping my eyes glued to the road while I drove, but there were some stops along the way, so I was able to enjoy the beauty that way, and I was so glad I took that ride, even though it was very scary because I am afraid of heights. It was well worth the anxiety that I felt as I was driving. So I would recommend to anyone, even if you are afraid of heights, just be careful, and if you are nervous, make someone else drive if you go to Colorado. But oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was so, so, so worth it. So I am going to add this cluster down here, but I realized that the blue paint was just not quite far enough down. So I'm going to add it down a little bit further on the page, and then I'm just going to kind of dry it up here so that I can stick my photo down. And I was using my heat gun, and it kind of, I think, did something funky to that picture. So you need to be very careful if you are using a heat gun around these photos that it doesn't mess your photo up or bubble it. So now I'm just going to try to glue this down, and because it was still a little bit wet and I didn't want to use my gun anymore, my heat gun, I ended up just using some liquid adhesive on the corner. And that is that cluster, except for this little bit of twine that I'm going to add in. This is just twine from my stash. I think it might be a Maya Road twine, and it's just variegated white and tan. And now I'm going to add this photo of my daughter, but I would something kind of in the background. So I'm taking this Tim Holtz Distress Stain in a green color, and I think it's Shabby Shutters. I'm not quite sure. I think I show it here in a little bit. And I'm just adding this in the background. And all I'm doing is making this kind of splat look. Yes, it is. Oh, sorry, Bundled Sage. I am taking the little dauber and making it a splat look because I kind of like how that looks. And to get that look, you just need to kind of prime it on a piece of paper to get the pad really moist and gushy. And then when you smack it down on the page, it ends up doing this kind of splatter look. So I really like how that looks and just gives some extra different kind of texture to the page. This little tab, I'm going to add that same twine here, that brown and white twine. And this is a cluster that I had also made while I was waiting for it to dry, and I showed that a little bit earlier while I was talking about our crazy drive. And that's just layering some die cut pieces from the collection pack that I had been using with this this journal. This is a little picture of me and my daughter at the snow. So in the background of this picture, there's all kinds of snow. The road had only been open for about 2 weeks once we got there, so there's quite a bit of snow still left, and it was like really tall and this really cool stratification of snow, and it was beautiful. And it was cool because you go down the bottom and it's like 90 degrees at the bottom of the mountain, and then by the time you go up there's like snow and it's like freezing when you get out of the car. So it was just really cool to see so many different ecosystems like all in one short drive. It was just really cool. I can't really say enough about this this trip. It was great. So now I am taking a picture of a moose. I think it's a moose. No, yes, moose. And I am just matting it on this little piece of paper from that same Dear Lizzie paper pad that I've been using. And then I'm also going to mount it again on this wood grain paper from my Mind's Eye. And then I'm just going to trim that out and glue that down with my dot runner and just tucking it kind of underneath that twine. And then I'm going to add that little buffalo. And although we didn't see any buffalo, there's lots of buffalo around the area in Colorado. So I thought it was appropriate to use a buffalo on this page. Now I'm just taking the adhesive off the back of this photo and then sticking this part down. And then I'm going to add a little triangle. And to make the triangle pop a little bit more, I'm going to pull in some of my Sharpie marker. It's just in a brown. And then because I put an outline on that, I decided to put an outline on some of the other die cuts as well. And again, this is just a Sharpie pen, Sharpie marker that has a really thin point. And I like how that kind of ties all the pieces together. And now I believe I am going to put some more of those green splats here on the bottom of this page. And I end up using this Estes Park postcard on that layout that I was just showing, so I go back and end up adding that later off camera, but I wanted to make sure I incorporated that postcard as well. So here's that splatter technique. I am just smacking it. Oh, and there's my kitty cat. I'm just smacking it down on the page, and it just makes this really nice effect. And I do have a little bit of a squishy page, so it doesn't quite splat as much as if I had more of a solid surface, but it does still give me the look that I'm looking for. So now I am going to journal all through this page, and I am going to save you that watching that. Oh no, sorry, I forgot. I added another little cluster in the bottom left. I thought it looked a little bit plain, so I'm going to take these chevron kind of pattern and I am going to cut that out. I'm going to cut one of these jars that are on the left or right of my layout. I'm going to cut one of those out, and then I'm also going to put this all on top of a piece of wood grain paper to anchor it all so it doesn't look like it's floating. And then that's just going to be another part of the page. I just thought it needed something in this bottom left, and I thought it was kind of floating here like I said, and I'm just going to add another piece of the scrap paper that I used to mat my other photo of the moose, and I'm going to add that there. And I'm also going to put some what's it called, Sharpie pen around that wood grain just to tie it again to the rest of it. I tucked that little piece of yellow paper to the left, and I just like how that looks. I'm also going to tuck in this little piece of striped paper in front of that yellow paper. Again, I just thought it needed just a little bit extra right there. I don't know, just needed it. I felt like I needed it. So here I am adding the brown lines, and I'm not doing a very good job at being real careful. I wanted to be semi-sloppy, so I did just kind of wing it. And I'm going to put that jar down, put that arrow, and then that just kind of brings your eye across the page. So now I'm actually going to journal, and then I'm not going to have you watch me do the entire journaling. So I'll fast forward here in a second. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to be finishing everything up. I'm going to add in more of my title for where it says home there by my daughter. It's going to say feels like home. And while I'm tying that all up, I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you're enjoying this little mini series. If you like to see videos like this, journaling and journal with me type of things, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to make some more. I have another trip that I'm going on, and I may post some photos and process videos of that as well. So let me know. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would love for you to be a subscriber. And if you have any other questions or comments, I actually love hearing from you guys. So it is great when I get a little comment from you. It just makes me very happy. And I appreciate all of you that are subscribers and anyone else that watches my videos. I do this because you guys are enjoying it, and I have a lot of fun putting this together and meeting new people through YouTube. So here are some close-ups of the layout, and then I'm going to show you some photos at the end. So thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.